For the second straight year, Iowa dominates Wisconsin. We break down the victory against Wisconsin and what's still to come for this Hawkeye team. Things are feeling good in Iowa City.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. It's a rapid reaction podcast here as Iowa polishes off Wisconsin, a dominating performance, 37-0 over Wisconsin. I am Trent Condon, the host of Locked On Hawkeyes. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio, and you can hear me currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network, where I host a show each weekday from noon to 2. You can catch me there with stations in Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, the Quad Cities, and Sioux City. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. 37-0 coming on the heels of a 42-10 win a season ago against Wisconsin. And certainly, boy, this feels good. You know, after what Wisconsin did in 2010 and kind of taking what Iowa was throughout the course of the early 2000s and changing the perception, certainly, of those two teams as they battled. And now what's happened? 5 out of 6 victories against Wisconsin, including these performances these last 2 times out. It just feels great. And, this is not to talk about how awful this Wisconsin team is, though they're really bad. This is about celebrating an Iowa team that gets it done. Now, got to start at the quarterback spot, and the big speculation throughout the week, obviously, of what was going to happen with Mark Gronowski. As we saw Gronowski go out onto the field, he certainly is not close to 100%. I mean, you can see that right away. And, there were a few different plays during the game, him just rolling out. You could see the hitch that was there. There were a couple of times that he was looking to plant that he stumbled, trying just to plant and throw the football. That's hugely concerning. And the stability of that knee, he's got the big brace back on, but is that stability something that is going to be able to be improved? Is that something that throughout the course of rehab and getting back, is it going to get closer to 100%? Or is this going to be the Mark Gronowski that we have going forward? And that is the question that is still going to remain, and we will continue to take a look at that. As I always do on the podcast for Monday, I will take a look back at the game, rewatch it a second time, and see a little bit more and kind of dive in deeper. This is just coming out, raw emotion, raw reaction to what we see that first time through, and that's what we have for you here this evening. Jumping in, the run game. And, as we talked about throughout the course of the week, that was the one component for Wisconsin that was a little bit concerning. They could stop but for Iowa to be able to line up and play bully ball, to go out there and play hat on hat, mano a mano, and to do it against Wisconsin, I think also feels better. What Wisconsin is known for, and to be able to do that again and just physically dominate them. This was their circled game. And the 42 push-ups. And how about Iowa football after the game? Quite the tweet that they sent out there. Bucky doing his push-ups. 37 more after doing 42 at the end of every practice leading into this game and going back throughout their offseason workouts. They try to play faux tough guy, right? The pushing and shoving before the game early on. A lot of yapping, a lot of talking, a lot of jawing. Luke Fickell looks like he's lost his program. And for a guy that was as celebrated as he was coming in from Ohio State, of course, Cincinnati, his last stop. But I had a Badger fan mention earlier this week to me that when he was the interim coach at Ohio State, and all he could manage was a 500 record. Maybe that should have said something more than being able to take Cincinnati and the American to an undefeated season. I thought that was a pretty good look at things. But to do it in that fashion for Iowa, Kamari Moulton running hard, and as he's getting back to 100%, getting Xavier Williams obviously back this week and what he was able to do. Nathan McNeil looked really good. And we know Jazzion Patterson is going to likely return at some point this season. That quadrant of 4 running backs, none of them are Caleb Johnson. That's fine. But all of them certainly have things that you could be excited about. Talked about Gronowski. And another really interesting part about this is who came in late in the game. And it wasn't Hank Brown. It was Jeremy Hecklinski that got the nod there. The reports were out there from the beat guys before the game that Hecklinski had elevated himself to number 2. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. There was a screen pass in the second half, and I believe it went to Moulton, that looked very similar to the screen pass that was there in the Indiana game. And as we look back upon that and knowing that Iowa was likely a completed screen pass away from winning that football game and sitting at 5-1 right now, I think those thoughts are going to seep into our head. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, kind of what's next to this team. I'll mention the running game. Final numbers: Moulton, 15 carries, 96 yards and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns for Xavier Williams. The backbreaker already up. You already saw Wisconsin quit, and they put it away with that one to make it 30-0. Xavier Williams, though, with 2 touchdowns in the game. Gronowski had the sneak, 4 carries, 9 yards for him. McNeil, 9 for 40. He had a lot of the garbage time carries late in the game when they were stacked up and knew Iowa wasn't going to throw the ball. How about Reese Vanderzee returning? And Vanderzee, no, not 6'5", listed at 6'4". Apologies for the idiots that rankled. But that aside, Vanderzee out there had a nice catch in traffic, finishes with 3 catches, 29 yards. We talked about his importance for this team. And that big-bodied wide receiver, that big guy that can go up in the red zone, can go up in jump ball situations. And it's even more important for Iowa just because of how limited they are currently at the tight end position. Ivanomy is very young, still a walk-on redshirt freshman, young guy. Ortworth, he said it, not a very good blocker. Hayden Large, wouldn't exactly think of him as fleet of foot by any means, and not the tight ends that we're used to. Yet they were able to go out there with that group and get Vanderzee to be tied for the team lead. They didn't throw a ton, but did enough. 17-24 for Gronowski, goes over 100 yards, had the interception, and that was the worst play of the day. I mean, when you're looking at a negative in that one, it was certainly that. But then the defense charged up, and have to give a lot of credit to a lot of the guys out there. Montgomery got the first start of his career at the middle linebacker spot. Carson Shire was all over the place. I really thought overall the defense tackled a whole lot better. And that was a big, big part of this, is the tackling after the missed tackles that they had against Indiana, the failure to wrap up, just getting back to fundamentals. It felt like Phil Parker definitely did that with this defensive group. We'll continue to tackle this one, got some numbers for you, and Jeremy Hecklinski, now QB number 2. What does that mean? What does it mean going forward? And if emergency strikes, Mark Gronowski can't go, is Jeremy Hecklinski ready to lead this team? We'll talk about that as we continue. It's a rapid reaction. Iowa dominates Wisconsin 37-0. Back with more in a moment. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind spot covered. Need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. They got you covered there. We're doing a few renovations here around this house, and we know that SupplyHouse can get things quickly for us in our home. Their Trade Master perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process go even smoother for you. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Well, the NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love the FanDuel app. So many great things that you can play on. You can jump on with the same game parlay. Maybe you're looking at that futures market and you think you got things pegged. Who's going to win the college national championship this year? How about taking a stab at Iowa, making a run maybe here in the Big Ten? You can do all that and a whole lot more on the FanDuel app. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving deep into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel.com. Trent Condon back with you once again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. As we take a look back at Iowa's dominating performance against Wisconsin, let's go to, well, a lot of times, the favorite person on campus, that is the backup quarterback. So we go back to Monday. And on Monday, we find out that their first has Mark Gronowski listed as a starter. All right, interesting. Then we see the backup, which had been Hank Brown all year. And after Hank Brown, it says Hank Brown or Jeremy Hecklinski. So the Wake Forest transfer comes in, and he's a little guy. He's listed at 5'11". People that have stood next to him said that might even be a stretch, but that's okay. People love his gunslinger type of mentality, a guy that is the kind of leader I think that Tim Lester also wants. You know, he has a lot of the qualities that he's looking for, and we've heard nothing but great things about Hecklinski. He probably doesn't have the raw arm talent of a Hank Brown, but those intangibles, the ability to put the ball in the right spot, those little things at the quarterback, Hecklinski sounds like he definitely has those kind of things. And when you couple that now with what this team's going to be going forward, and I also wonder if this has something to do with mobility too. So Hank Brown, well, he's not a stiff. He's not certainly known as an athletic quarterback. You know, that's not something that you would consider when you're talking about Hank Brown. He can move around a bit, but that's not at the high. Hecklinski, though, he's got a little bit more of that wiggle. And if that goes hand in hand with what Lester's looking at, because when we look back at Iowa's best performances offensively here these last couple of years, many times a big component of that is the legs of the quarterback. And I do wonder if maybe that is a component that goes hand in hand with it. Now, what we hope is after the season concludes, wherever that ends up, whatever that looks like, is that both those guys stick around, that both Hank Brown and Jeremy Hecklinski go through next spring and find out who's going to win that job. But got to see him late. Looks a little out there. It's all right. Something that doesn't bother me as a short guy. Like those little guys getting an opportunity, but definitely one that we are going to keep an eye on, monitor going forward on that front. A couple other components here with the team. Talked about the defense a little bit. How about the interceptions? Aaron Graves. 6 inches away from a touchdown for the big man he's been playing so well this year. On that play, you saw Brian Allen got his hand on the quarterback and helped deflect that ball up into the air, leading the interception. Saw a lot of Cam Buffington late in the game. Good to see some of those young guys in there. Hawthorne also with the early deflection and the interception before Graves got his. It was a complete effort. Great to see Drew Stevens back out there, knocks in 3 field goals. Definitely wanted to see that coming off the bye week. It was just one of those games where so many things were going well and everything seemed to be clicking with this Iowa team. You really saw what you wanted to see out of this group. A couple other notes for you. These are from the athletic communications staff. How about this? Iowa shuts out Wisconsin. The first time that the Badgers have been shut out at Camp Randall since 1980. I'm an old man. I got a lot of gray. I was born in 1980. That was the last time that Wisconsin had been shut out in their home stadium. You couple that with Iowa for the first time since 1996, a shutout victory there as Iowa won that one, 31-0 in 96. So these are good ones. These are good numbers, definitely, for Iowa. 18th shutout also for Kirk Ferentz in the program's history under Kirk. Iowa's third shutout all time in Wisconsin as well. 4-game winning streak. Iowa has outscored Wisconsin during this 4-game winning streak, 118-26. The Hawkeyes now 30-11 in their last 40 rivalry trophy games. Win number 208 for Coach Ferentz as well in this one. Hawkeyes now 4-0 in night games this season. And of course, we'll get another night game next week against Penn State. We'll talk about that coming up here momentarily. 210 yards rushing in the game. And boy, I mean, if they needed to, they could have run for another 300 in this one. First career starts as well. We talked about Jaden Montgomery, also Vanami. He started the game at tight end. So both those guys got out there in their first career starts. So just some notes that came in from the email and the communication staff over there with Bailey Turner and the whole crew. Big thank you. Of course, Weitzel and company doing a great job. James Allen and the whole group. And a big thank you to them, as always, for those good notes in the post game. So what does it mean? Iowa gets the win. Okay. What does it mean? And can we start to talk a little crazy? Let's have some fun. We'll do that as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel the craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available leather upholstery. An all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, now just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. As a small business owner myself, I know that Quo is a place that I can go and make sure that all those calls are answered. And maybe I'm recording a podcast, maybe I'm on the road, or maybe I am hosting a radio show. Whatever it is, Quo, formerly known as Open Phone, lets me set everything up and make it an absolute game changer for my small business. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything like myself or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Trent Condon back with you one final time here, Locked On Hawkeyes. And I said, it's time to have a little fun. Let's dare to dream. And I had those frustrating moments as this one is being salted away. Domination, feeling great about Iowa getting the win. And then looking back to 2 weeks ago, what could have been against Indiana. Every day, as you know, that game frustrated me to no end because it was there. That was a game that Iowa, you can say, deserved to win. They didn't. And here we are now. Iowa gets the win. They go to 4-2 on the season. And yet at 5-1, we're having a different talk because that Penn State game, FanDuel during the offseason when they had their games of the year lines out, Iowa was a 10.5-point favorite. Now, as we sit here on Saturday evening, they still have not released the point spread over at FanDuel. The Drew Aller injury, a big part of that. But now a Penn State team that loses to Northwestern this weekend, lost to UCLA. Of course, the home loss against Oregon. It doesn't look nearly as good as it did back a couple of weeks ago. In fact, now the line is out. As I sit here and mention that, It is out as I look at my FanDuel app right now. Penn State is favored in this game by 1.5 as of Saturday evening. Of course, that is subject to change. Was a little bit surprised. I thought Iowa probably be the other way. I thought Iowa would be under a field goal favorite, but 1.5, 2.5, something in that range. Instead, it is Penn State that is favored in this one. Might have to log in and dabble just a little bit. But James Franklin, a incredibly unlikable figure, something we'll talk about leading into the game this week. Not going to shed a whole lot of tears for Franklin. Still, you got that game. The Minnesota game, who the Gophers were hair on fire to beat Purdue tonight. You have the Oregon game after that, and as mentioned, maybe not quite as daunting as it looked just a week ago. I mean, Indiana went in there and they punched him in the mouth. And what's Iowa going to do? They're going to punch him in the mouth. And Mark Gronowski needs to be healthier. Mark Gronowski has to be able to run it. And they're going to have to make plays. And there might be times that they're going to have to keep up. But outside of the USC game, there isn't anything on the schedule that says, well, that's impossible. And even impossible is not the correct term for USC. We just got to see, or really anybody, go out to the West Coast and play well outside of Indiana. And Kirk Cinetti, who seems to be the only one that can get that figured out after what they did to UCLA earlier last season. And, of course, what they did here this afternoon. It's frustrating. This team should be 5-1. They're not, but there's still a lot to play for. And speaking of being goofy, if Iowa runs the table, if Iowa goes out, beats Penn State, beats Oregon, wins at USC, beats Nebraska, who survived, I mean, you put together that kind of resume, even with losses to Indiana, who knows what the Hoosiers are at the end of the year, and a loss against Iowa State that's looking worse and worse, still 10-2 with the way the teams are going to continue to beat each other up. It's not over. It's not likely. I mean, put the odds at, 50-1, something like that Iowa actually runs the table. However, we can dare to dream. And that makes things a little bit more fun. It gives us the opportunity to dream, to get excited, and hopeful for this team going forward. That was a fun one. Now, keep the momentum going. And there's something special about beating Penn State. A Penn State program that has a lot of skeletons in the closet, not just with the previous regime and Joe Paterno and everything that happened there, but even with the current one and James Franklin and some of the things that he's gone through, and not just the issues at Vanderbilt, but even at Penn State. I mean, he's a whiner, and he's been a whiner since he's got there. And the media is a bunch of whiners, and their fan base is different. We're all fans. Some are just built differently. Feels good when we can beat Penn State. Let's make it happen Saturday, and let's dare to dream for another week. Locked on Hawkeyes. This is your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Each and every day, we got something for you here on the Locked On feed. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you're an everydayer, you know we got you covered from all angles. We'll break down the press conference coming up on Tuesday. We'll react to the depth chart that comes out on Monday. I will go back Sunday night, rewatch this football game, and then dive in a second time a little bit deeper and go through with a fine-tooth comb some of the things that we missed here on the Rapid Reaction podcast. Thanks for being with us. Hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're on the podcast side. 5-star reviews, all of that helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. As always, thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you again on Sunday night. Until then, go Hawks.